So, did you make contact with aliens? Were you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food? Injections? It's important the entire world learns of your experience.
That's enough!
The teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. For the seeker.
Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-Dress.
Roger, nice to be in orbit.
Broadcasting from the Forest Tower Studios in the mossy creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void, your voice for verity in this crazy realm of polarity. Good evening, it's Wednesday, April the 4th, and the night is cool, and the weather is perfect here in the natural state. As the moon wanes still on into midnight, fire up your chakras, sync both hemispheres of your brain together, and shoot your magical beam of light through your third eye tonight with us as we peer into the void between spirituality and science. It is a lovely night. Now, this is a show that is broadcasted live on thefringe.fm. It can be heard on lightingthevoid.com, also on other places like TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Spreaker. There's a chat room in Spreaker as well, iTunes Radio, Radio Guide FM, Radio Garden, and more by proxy via the Fringe FM. The call to listen line number is 701-719-3971, and the call on the show is 501-777-5631. I want to give a big shout out to Caroline. I love you very much, and I thank you all for those that have donated. If you can donate, it is very, very much appreciated if you find anything of value from the show or the Fringe FM. Also, follow, like, subscribe. Everything is Lighting the Void. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. If you're on one, go ahead and subscribe to the other. And don't forget to sign up for the newsletter on the website. It's in the top right. Just put your name and email there, and you'll get a free astrology book. And you can just ride off into the sunset with it. It's yours to keep, and we're going to be adding some stuff to that as well. Don't forget to get your bottle of Ancient Life Oil. It's ancientlifeoil.com. Put in the word Joe Roop. Tell them I sent you. Get the good stuff, the best stuff on the market. And go to magicalegypt.com. Put in the code word Fringe and get 10% off on that as well. You guys need to check that out, especially the companion series. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Alien World Order Agenda with Mr. Lynn Caston. It's going to be a pretty cool show. I'm looking forward to this. Like I said, subscribe. Everything's Lighting the Void. Social media, all that stuff. Social media is kind of weird right now with all the stuff going on, but just I'm actually got a page on MeWe as well, too. So there you go. All right, so instead of getting into the news and to the Gilson Report, we're going to do something a little different for the first part of the show here. We're going to bring on a fellow listener and avid astral traveler, Brent. And Brent is a listener. He's been in the chat rooms. You've probably seen him in the chat rooms in S4, Spaced Out Radio. Every now and then he'll jump in and Lighting the Void. And I talked to him last weekend on Spaced Out Saturday, and so we wanted him to come on and talk a little bit about astral travel, seeing how it's something that he does. And it's cool to have listeners on the show. So welcome, Brent, to Lighting the Void. Thanks for joining us, brother.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
So tell me, man, how this got started for you, real quick. How did all this astral travel experience start happening for you?
Well, when I was knowing about it, I guess you could say, I just recently found out not too long ago, and I heard about a class in my group, FMP, or Force Paranormal, and heard about a class and kind of started taking it, and that was back in, I think, November, December, somewhere around in there, and I had to go finish the class, and it was pretty interesting, though, because after a few exercises, I think it was, I kind of went somewhere, I don't know where it was, and I was kind of hovering, I guess you could say, and then I kind of noticed a werewolf. I'm like, I didn't feel any fear. I'm just like, okay, what are you doing here? I'm kind of like trying to leave my body here.
Wow, so it was the group, the Force Moon Paranormal group, where you actually started learning how to do this?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's cool.
That I know of. I've been told I've been traveling for a little while, for a long time now, so, because I thought it was just like photogenic memory or photographic, whichever. But whenever I was asked the question if where something was in a specific room or something, I would say, well, let me look. And I just kind of like stand there and look. So I don't know, I guess I was traveling then.
Let me ask you a question. So was it like when I first popped out of body, and apparently you've probably had more experiences than I have, but the first time that I knew I was astral traveling, it seemed like it was more real than this, like the vision, the heightened sense of awareness. Did you get the same thing?
Well, I don't see 100% in there, but I can see some things, and some things when I see them, I see them clearly. But it's just a lot of senses and feelings, I guess you could say, for me. I sense things and pretty much what they are. I can tell what they are and whatnot.
Okay, interesting. So you don't see as clear as other people do in there.
Right. I've seen a few things. I've seen three different types of aliens. I've actually talked to some ghosts and seen them. And like I said, the werewolf. And other non-living things too.
Now, you did mention
items,
on Spaced Out Saturday last weekend something about you having to battle these things in the astral realm, And by the way, just in case you're listening for the first time and you don't know what the astral realm is, just something we talk about frequently. It's the out-of-body experience. It's the stage between sleep and awake. When you're aware, it's beyond lucid dreaming. But you were mentioning something about having to battle things. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, sir. Well, my very first case was this woman she had 13, I think, implants from aliens, and they were constantly after her and just bugging the heck out of her, and the team, 3 others and I went in, and others kind of took care of the implants while I was kind of battling the aliens, and my first thought was a flamethrower, so I just thought of a giant flamethrower and toasted them.
Wow. So did you see the other people that were in there with you?
I could sense them.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I only got glimpses of the aliens, so I didn't really see. But like I said, that was my very first case.
So someone contacted the Force Moon Paranormal team and said they were having some issues, and you guys went into the astral realm and took care of it for them, basically, is what you're saying.
Yes, sir. Well, she's still got some kind of... They're still kind of getting through sometimes, but not nearly as bad. But they're, like I said, they've been on her for years, so...
How wild does that sound, what we're talking about right now? Does it sound wild to you to even discuss it?
It does, actually.
But you experienced it, though, so it's not an easy thing. I'm sure you don't go around telling everybody about it, but to me it'd be so hard not to talk to every person in the world about this, because it's just really cool to me.
It can be kind of difficult to not to, but because it is pretty cool and it's fun.
So what about when people say, Brent, like they'll say, and I've had other people tell me, like Preston Dennett, that they don't feel like that it's very dangerous to be in the astral realm, but others say it is. What's your opinion on that?
It is. Well, it can be. Depends on what your situation is, what you're like. In my case, I was battling aliens, that's kind of, that could have been dangerous, but I was protected from others, and, But as long as you have shields and you're shielded up, and you, if need be, you have other people's shielding you too, then it'll be good.
So it all has to do with the imagination, I guess, your ability to be able to create visions and focus.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much. You imagine your shield and several layers of shields on you. Yeah. Yeah. You imagine it. Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you do to get out of body?
Well, I can look at a picture or I can latch on to other people when they're traveling. And it's either or. Look at a picture or latch on, and that usually helps. But I can just, unless I know, like, my home, I can, where I grew up, I can just travel there pretty much any time, and because I already know what it's like there. And I'm attached already, I guess you could say. Not that I know what it's like.
Sure.
It's changed a little bit, but.
Is this something that you do in meditation, or do you actually lay down and try to go to sleep and get in that state?
Well, it depends on the situation. When I first started, I did have to go in and lay down and kind of get out of the dark, or go to a dark, quiet place, but I've never actually fallen asleep from trying to leave.
Right, and using the techniques that you were taught from the team, right?
Yes. And sometimes, like I said, if I just look at a picture, I'll kind of just pop in there and real quick now.
How do you not, now that you can do, I can't even get out of my yard still to this day, and you're already battling werewolves with flamethrowers and stuff. I mean, how does this, is it hard to stay in the real world? Because to me, and the reason why I ask that is, to me, if I had the ability to do this with the same abilities that you're talking about, I would probably not shower for a week. You know, that's probably why they don't let me get out of the yard very much.
Well, it can be kind of difficult for some, but I think it's because my vision, I'm not really, I thought that would be more reason to go out and do it more, but because I want my vision to come in completely, and I'm hoping it will, like every time I go in.
Yeah, I read a book by William Buhlman, and he talked about that, about how some people have blurry vision in the astral realm, and he would say, he would make demands like clarity now or vision now, like he would make demands in the astral realm, and that would happen. Have you tried that?
Huh. I never heard of that, so that's a good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I would try that and see how that works. What about the 360 vision? A lot of people say you get vision that you can see in all directions. Is that true?
I can imagine that, yeah. Because I actually saw one truck stop. Or not truck stop, but that's where the company, trucking company, sorry.
That's all right.
And I was kind of floating over that, and I had a vision of pretty much all of it, except it was dark, so I couldn't really see that well, but...
Can you tell me about the first time that it happened? What happened the first time you got out of body?
Yeah, the werewolf one. That's where I kind of just floating wherever, and I didn't even know where I was, but I don't even know if I was outside or where I was, but it was dark except for the gray werewolf who was under me, and it was interesting, quite interesting, because I didn't feel any kind of fear from him. It was just weird.
Did you feel yourself disconnect from your body, though, or anything of that nature? Any vibrations, any weird feelings?
Not that I noticed, actually. I was kind of focused on that, because it's like, what the heck are you doing here?
Some kind of smooth transition, sounds like.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people do get, when they are almost ready to leave, they will get startled awake, though, or startled out of it, whatever.
And you didn't get startled when you saw the werewolf?
No.
You sound like a pretty calm guy, though, actually. You know, to me, I would have been startled pretty easily, but you sound like you're a pretty calm type dude.
Yeah. Well, he didn't give any kind of mean presence, so I think he was just curious as to why I was there, too. So it's kind of like, we were both, I think, because he was looking right up at me, and I was looking down at him like, okay, what are you doing here? I'm trying to leave my body. Why are you here?
Right. Well, see, this is why I want to talk to listeners on the show every now and then, just so I can get an idea of, there's reasons why you guys listen to this stuff, and I think it's because, well, obviously you're interested in it, but a lot of you are having these same experiences too. You know, I don't know why it's so easy for you to do, though. Is it very easy for you to do now?
Oh, yeah. We got our, I call him Paraboss. We were supposed to meet at his place before and after on his roof. So I just think of his roof and boom, I'm there.
Wow. Maybe it's because, you know who else told me that? You're not going to believe this, Brent, but I asked the same question to Thomas Campbell on the show, and he's a NASA physicist, and he told me the exact same thing. He said, all of this stuff, these methods and all of these things that you're doing, you're just making it hard on yourself. It's very, very simple, Yep.
Yeah, it's true.
So I guess
basically focus.
You just focus on what you're visualizing, right? Is that what you do?
Yeah. And you focus on the location or the person, whichever you get the picture of, and you can just, well, for me, I just pretty much 9 times out of 10, I'm right there, so.
Have you ran into any other entities in the astral realm, Brent?
Yeah, the very first battle, there was also another astral team that started the trouble with this woman. And it's kind of funny because you could feel the difference in that they were people.
Really?
I didn't get to see them either, but yeah, they got blasted out, and I don't know what happened to them, but I'm sure they probably had headaches or something.
This all sounds so wild to me, but you know what? I mean, I don't question it now because I've had my own experiences, and I've talked to so many people that, like William Buellman or Thomas Campbell, just all kinds of people that are having these experiences. I hope that maybe I could take a page out of your book and just calm down and learn how to do it. I'm very jealous of you, man.
Well, no need. You can do it too. Anybody can.
You really believe that, right? That anybody can do it?
Yep, I do, sir. It's just takes focus and concentration, really.
Like the Karate Kid, when he's focusing on the nail?
There you go. Unfortunately, it doesn't take very long for me because I think I've got ADD, so I bounce around a bit in there, too.
That's cool. You got ADD, huh? So the Force Moon Paranormal, so if somebody came to you guys, and what other kind of things could they come to you guys about? Because we got a couple, just 2 minutes left here. What other things could they come to you guys about to get help with?
Well, obviously spirits, aliens, any kind of ghost, any kind of hauntings, Bigfoot, any other cryptid, aliens, alien abductions. The team has stopped, not me per se, but the team has stopped alien abductions, and we've not yet just found Bigfoot, but pretty much anything that's supernatural or paranormal or anything.
And the Force Moon Paranormal Team is known as an emergency response paranormal team. So people come to you when things are just out of hand or they get out of control, and you guys just kind of step in and take care of it, huh?
Yes, sir. Boots on ground and astral, or just astral if need be. But we're nationwide, pretty much global, actually, I think now. We've got had cases in Australia, had cases, I guess, in China, so in India now. So it's getting pretty far out there.
Are you ex-military by any chance?
I just did the Navy Reserves, yes, sir.
I figured that, because you guys all talk the same. You all sound very military-ish.
Well, that's a good thing, I think. Thank you.
Well, hey, Brent, thanks for coming on the show and sharing that with us. I really appreciate it, man. I know it takes a lot to do that, so I appreciate it. I'd love to talk about this anytime.
All right, right on. Well, thank you. It was been a real pleasure.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Thank you much for the opportunity.
You're welcome. All right, guys, when we come back, we're going to be speaking to Lynn Caston. We're going to be talking about his new book, The Alien World Order. You guys don't go anywhere.
your host. Pull back the blinds and uncover the truth. This is Lighting the Void Radio.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting. We rock the paranormal talk.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Wouldn't you love to have a really sharp memory? More than ever before, people of all ages are struggling with memory problems and brain fog. Whether your poor memory is age-related or due to the effects of chronic stress, you can now improve your memory while reducing stress with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. That's right, you get 2 products rolled into one. Some ingredients in Calm and Clever enhance memory and help retain newly learned information more effectively, while other ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce stress by maintaining healthy levels of the stress hormone cortisol. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. To sharpen your mind and feel calm and centered, try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll love the way you feel and think. To order Calm and Clever, call 1-800-728-9948 or visit calmandclever.com. 1-800-728-9948 or calmandclever.com.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio with Joseph Roop. Stay up to date right now, lightingthevoid.com.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. You know, after just 1 week of taking angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Come own the night with us. Hi there, this is Dave Scott, host of Spaced Out Radio. Every Monday through Friday, right here on KTLK, The Fringe FM, I'm going to lead you down a path of mystery, intrigue, and suspense. So whether you've seen a UFO, had a run-in with Bigfoot or Dogman, or had ghosts running around your house, this is the place to be. Spaced Out Radio, right here on KTLK.
Oh, you know what I like about me? This is Rich Giordano, host of The Paranormal Code. No, I'm serious. The show's on twice a week now, Sunday and Thursday, on thefringe.fm and Spreaker, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. Yeah, it's 2 hours. It's live. And I do a show like you've never heard before. So you're going to come here, you're going to get your information, you're going to be entertained. But you're also going to hear the truth like, you know, you won't forget. Like you've never heard before. And for those of you who've been following, thank you. Thank you for talking me into this extra night. Now I'm on twice. Great. Hey, good for you, right? The Paranormal Code. This means something.
This is Lighting the Void Radio with your host, Joseph Roop. It's the show about truth-seeking and freeing the spirit, shattering your limited beliefs, revealing hidden truths, and much, much more.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I am your host, Joe Roop. We are live on The Fringe. Fringe.fm. Don't forget, Lighting the Void is live every Tuesday and Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time, right on the Fringe.fm. All right, let's bring on our guest, Mr. Lynn Caston. Now, Lynn has a bachelor's degree from Cornell University, where he majored in psychology and minored in literature and philosophy. After graduating from Cornell, he entered the U.S. Air Force Aviation Cadet program. He also has a master's degree in fine arts and creative writing. While in the Air Force, he experienced a UFO encounter that had a transformative effect on his life, although he didn't realize it until a few years later. Now, after serving in the Air Force, he moved to Richmond, Virginia. On frequent trips to Virginia Beach, he spent a lot of time in the extensive New Age library at the Association for Research and Enlightenment, the organization that was founded by Edgar Cayce, where he acquired a self-education in metaphysics. He then moved to Boston, where he was introduced to Theosophy and joined the Boston Theosophical Society. Then later, while working in D.C. in the 1960s, he felt drawn to join the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. Now, the NICAP was the most prestigious organization in the country investigating UFO phenomena. Lynn then moved to Hartford, Connecticut, where he joined the American Philosopher Society. Upon the death of the founder, Cyril Benton, Lynn became the president of the society. In the 1980s, the APS, under Lynn's leadership, commenced a program of weekly public lectures by prominent metaphysical and ufology researchers, writers, and leaders. Now, while living in Connecticut, Lynn became the editor of an early New Age publication, Metamorphosis. It's Metamorphosis Magazinico, founded with Gordon Michael Scallion. Tonight, we're going to talk about his new book, Alien World Order, The Reptilian Plan to Divide and Conquer Us here. And I am super excited about this, Lynn. Thanks for coming on Lighting the Void. I really appreciate it, sir.
My pleasure.
So this is something that I have never, ever got to talk about on this show, and I've always wanted to talk to. There's only two people I've studied this, the reptilian deal where alien races and all this big conspiracy thing. It's always been so hard for me to believe until I heard, David Icke the first time, and that also led me to your work, and others started recommending your works. And so when I reached out to you today, I'm so glad to discuss this with you, because I would like to learn about this as much as possible. And I know you got quite a bit of information in this book you have out.
Yeah, I do. Of course, not as extensive as David Icke, though.
Sure.
David broke the ground. He was the pioneer, and I read a lot of what he's written and admired it very much.
So when this thing happened to us, well, let me ask you this. The deal when we first came to this planet, there's this thing about how we were seeded, and we were seeded for slavery, but there's this other story that says that we were seeded for enlightenment, that a certain race of aliens wants us to become enlightened, but another race of aliens wants us to become enslaved, and they're working with the government, right? So how much truth is to that? Is it one story, or is there really two going on?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, there's only one narrative that makes sense to me, and I think it's pretty logical. And David Icke more or less agrees with it. And lately, some other noted UFO researchers have also come around to agree with it, especially Linda Moulton Howe. She's probably the most famous one. And so I think we've pretty much reached the point now where it's almost acceptable as a historical narrative of how we got here and what we're doing here.
So it's the slavery thing then. That's kind of a scary thought, though, isn't it? To know, I mean, surely there's got to be something more for us to do than become slaves. But I guess, when being aware of it is the first thing that we need to do to empower us, right?
Well, we're not slaves yet. That's their plan. That's their plan, is to enslave us and to take over the planet and all of the riches of this Earth and this planet. And they've taken over 21 star systems in this part of the galaxy. So there's a very good shot that they might take us over too.
Interesting.
They're not there yet, though.
Right. Well, interesting. In your bio, you talk about the Theosophical Society, which I've read quite a bit of work in, especially from H.P. Blavatsky and some other texts in the Theosophical Society. Have you read
Blavatsky?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people, in my opinion, this is my opinion, there are a lot of people that are giving Blavatsky a bad rap about some of the things. They're saying that she was evil and she's part of the Luciferian movement. And I don't believe that at all. I mean, if you really read all of her texts, she's really all about, enlightenment and teaching you about this world between material and immaterial. I've never seen any kind of Luciferian agenda in any of her texts.
No, I agree. I agree entirely. Yeah, I've read many books by her, and I'm convinced that her goal was to enlighten.
Is that why you joined the Theosophical Society? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, I had a mentor in Connecticut who was a noted theosophist, a British theosophist, and he influenced me tremendously. And then when I moved to Boston, I immediately joined the Boston chapter, which was probably one of the best theosophical chapters in the country at that time. And I studied astrology under Isabel Hickey while I was there, and got very much into the whole subject of why we're here and where we came from.
So this state that we talk about, and we talked about this before you came on with a listener. Every now and then I'll have a listener come on and tell their story. The state between sleep and awake, that state where we see, where a lot of people have seen beings, either shadow beings or maybe alien beings. Are they controlling us from that place, you think, or trying to control us?
Yes, that's exactly what happens. And I think that's called the hypnagogic state, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and they control the dreamscape from the fourth dimension, and from that fourth dimension, they can influence large groups in our society to behave in certain ways. And that's how they prepare a nation for war. That's how they prepare the young men of a nation for war, is through the dreamscape. The best person to read on that subject is James Bartley, by far. And I would recommend him highly. Anything you can get by him, anything online that you can read by him, he explains it in great detail. And Carla Turner also was one who was considered a disciple of Bartley, and she was important. She was an important writer in this subject too.
Now, okay, what about the works of Charles Fort? Do you think there's any truth to what he discusses?
Well, I think Charles Fort was just interested in pointing out strange anomalies in the world and strange things that happen. And he, as a result of that, he got into the fringes of the New Age thought and of occult teachings. But it was purely by accident, I think, only because they fascinated him. These subjects fascinated him. He didn't really develop any narrative, I think, in terms of our origins, why we're here and what we're doing here. So I don't consider him one of the more important writers on the subject.
Right. I'm to be honest with you, I'm about halfway through the Book of the Damned, which some people will go, shame on you, Joe. But, you're right. It is a lot of what ifs and, look at this or look at that, a lot of comparative, I guess you would say, just think about things.
There was no cohesive narrative to when he was, not like Blavatsky. Blavatsky had Isis Unveiled is a masterwork, absolutely masterpiece. I don't know. I don't think anybody's actually read it from cover to cover, but it's an amazing book.
The discussion I had with you on the phone earlier, I was reading another book by Jason Quitt, Forbidden Knowledge, and he talks about a shadow being, with shadow beings that I've seen myself, and they tend to scare me when I see them, but apparently our fear is keeping us from being able to overcome certain things because they may be guides or things of that nature. I mean, what can we do, Lynn, to become more aware of the truth about what's there? Because even if I went there now, I don't know. All I see is these black shadowy figures, and I know they're trying to do something, but I can't help but be afraid of them. But some people say, no, they're actually guides. It's very hard to figure out.
I think if they were really guides, you'd know it. You would really know it because they're shining beings. They're highly developed and they're surrounded by a very bright aura. So I don't think you can mistake one for the other. And the thing that we have to be very careful of in this struggle we're having now with the reptilians is fear, because they thrive on our fear. They literally gobble it up. They love it, and they keep us in a state of fear. They manage to do that. So we have to avoid that if we can at all costs.
Edgar Cayce talks about healing people in the dream state. Probably, in my opinion, one of the most prevalent psychics, I guess you would call psychics. I don't know if I would even label him a psychic. He was so gifted. And still yet there are people today that say that he's not real, but he had doctors and scientists and everyone and their brother going down there to tell him to stop doing the work that he was doing. And when they left, they were writing articles about how amazing he was. Why do you think that we don't talk about that as much anymore? I don't see a lot of people still talking about Edgar Cayce, which was so profound.
Well, he was a true clairvoyant, and he was able to channel a lot of higher powers and entities. The Edgar Cayce Foundation in Virginia Beach is still very much alive and kicking, and very well known, and people come and go there all the time. And I don't think that his influence has really petered out yet.
I'm glad to hear that. Maybe it's because in the last month or so, I talked to a friend of mine, and he's just got this thing that he doesn't believe that any psychics are real. And I bring up to him, I'm like, well, if you look at the story of Edgar Cayce, that's pretty hard to disprove, actually, based on all of the things that was written about. He's an amazing person. But my question is how does religion, in your opinion, is it the same as everybody else is saying that, the Enoch and the Watchers, that was really the aliens? Or do you have a different point of view when it comes to religious texts?
Well, I think religions are basically founded by a single individual, typically, and who are very, very powerful, spiritually powerful people. And because of that, their influence spreads and becomes dogma. And it's unfortunate when it deteriorates into dogma, because then it starts to harden and it's no longer very enlightening. But I think religious in its early stages can be very helpful. But you really basically have to get above religion to make any progress, I think. And that's pretty much what that mentor I was speaking about in Hartford, Connecticut taught me. He said that you can't get caught up in this dogma. He said it's a dangerous trap. You've got to keep expanding your thinking and your mind and your spirit. So I've taken that to heart.
I totally agree with that. Now I'm going to get into a little bit of the stuff here that I want to try to understand better, and I want you to help me with this. What are some of the things that these beings do to us? What are they doing to influence us now as a society?
Well, you have to understand that we're dealing with a race of beings who are so mentally powerful and have such a long history of occult and development and scientific and technological development that it would take us about, I would say, 500 years to catch up with them. That's how advanced they are. They are probably the oldest race in the galaxy, according to the teachings of Alex Collier and others. And they've had space travel and space technology for thousands and thousands of years. And they've been cruising the galaxy and dominating other star systems. And as of this date, I think they have basically they've basically enslaved 21 star systems in this section of the galaxy that we know of. So, we're dealing with a very, very menacing situation here. And they've targeted us for a takeover. But there's a lot more to the story, because it's not going to be easy for them now. There are a lot of factors now involved here.
Do we have maybe other beings out there that are watching out for us, you would say?
They're watching out for us, but they can't do it for us. They're here to inspire us, to teach us, and to help us as best they can, because they want us to succeed, but they cannot do it for us. We have to expand our consciousness to the point where the reptilian influence is no longer effective. Once we reach that point, they can no longer affect us.
So it's really all about
that hasn't happened yet. They've got us in a state of being dumb and dumber, and they keep us in a state of basic stupidity, you might say, and that's how they continue to control us.
So is it really a war of consciousness, Lynn?
Yes, it is. That's what it is. Exactly. They're not exactly. They don't have any of the traits that we have in terms of compassion, in terms of love. They don't understand those emotions at all. They only know how to dominate and to conquer and to enslave. That they don't have a heart chakra, so that it's never a conflict for them. They're just here to control and to basically treat us like we treat sheep. They have no respect for us, but they're starting to understand that we may become a threat.
That's kind of scary when you think about it, but it's also empowering when I hear you say that. It lets me know that because there's so many narratives out there of slavery. You hear it a lot. I mean, you really do. Slavery based on an alien race that most of us can't see, and that's kind of a scary thought. But even scarier, that they've been working with the government all along, and it kind of makes you feel helpless sometimes,
Well, you can't allow that to happen. You just got to believe that we can beat them. And, they really, despite the fact that they know they're much superior to us in terms of technology and in terms of history and all that, they really are afraid of us. They're basically afraid of us because we have characteristics that they do not have. And we have a potential that is vastly better than theirs. And they know that, and that's why they keep us in a dumbed-down state. They keep us in watching cartoons and movies that don't make any sense. That's through the media and through the banks and through the various things that they control, through the Illuminati. They keep us in that state because they know that once we rise above it, it'll be all over. Our potential is vast because we come from a very elevated species in this galaxy. Our spirit is very strong, very powerful. And once it reaches its potential, then the reptilians will no longer be a threat.
Can I ask you a question about the occult? I've read a lot of occult material, and yeah, some of it is. There are bad things that you can do. Bad, I guess you could say, rites and rituals that could come out of it. But I also find some of it enlightening and empowering, and yet the narrative with the occult is to stay away from it, that it's all evil. But after reading Jim Marrs and other texts like that, and I've even read a lot of Crowley, I've read a lot of Israel Regardie, this to me is this war in the subconscious as far as using symbology and stuff like that is, I think, in my opinion, is one of the powers that's been hidden from us for a long time.
Yeah, but it leads you down what they call the left-hand path, and you don't want to go down that path. You got to stay on the right side, and stay elevated and stay conscious of the divine energy that will also be out there, because possession and all of that stuff becomes possible only if you're so fascinated by it that you weakly accept it, and soon it can take you over. So you just gotta stay away from that left-hand path. I've looked into it myself, and my friend in Connecticut warned me about all the possible traps that exist for people who are unaware of what can happen to you. Possession is a fact. People do get possessed, and you have to be very careful about that. So don't get too fascinated by it. That would be my advice.
Right. A simple meditation and simple consciousness exercises are good enough, I think, too. And I understand what you talk about when you mean the left-hand path. It seems like there's two paths to take. Understanding
and Blavatsky talked about that in depth.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Understanding that you're part of the divine whole, or this other path where you become this megalomania, trying to become a living God type person.
Yeah, that's more of a power-seeking goal instead of expanding your divine consciousness and your divine potential. It becomes an ego thing, really. I think.
So how deep-seated are they in our government right now, do you think? Do you think they're just in everything? I mean, is there no part of our government that we can trust?
Well, here's how they operate. They live underground. I know. I think have you read that part of my book yet?
Right, yeah, I have.
They live underground, but they are master geneticists. Biotechnology is their strong suit. They know how to hybridize, to create hybrid creatures. And all they do is abduct human beings, and they hybridize them and make them part reptilian and part human, in what we call the Illuminati. And those are the entities that have taken over the media, the banks, the military. They control the planet because they're in power in every nation in the world. So unless we can get above that, they will win. They will win. And as I tried to point out in my book, their technology is so far ahead of ours. They have the ability to create robots that actually are superior to human beings in many ways. And so artificial intelligence is the next stage that they're going to advance and put us through. And if we can get through that, if we can avoid being taken in by artificial intelligence, then we'll have a shot at beating them.
And it seems like AI is a part of everything right now. We've talked about that on the show extensively, and there is a huge agenda to put this in everything, and it seems innocent enough at first, right? Self-driving cars, artificial intelligent apps that kind of play with you, and that's funny.
Exactly. That's how they draw you in. Exactly. That's how they draw you in.
Yeah, it's a terrible slippery slope.
Yeah, the things you can do with your cell phone are fantastic, amazing stuff, and the technology is incredible. But it's the wrong direction for us because the robots will take over. We'll not be able to compete with the robots eventually. There's a point in my book I discussed the phenomenon of transhumanism. Have you had anybody on your show talk about transhumanism?
Yes.
Okay, so you know what it is then, basically, right?
Right. It's and according to what I've studied, transhumanism is like how to I guess we have like artificial intelligence and stuff take over our bodies, and it looks like they're trying to transfer their consciousness this way and stuff as well too. It's not natural at all.
They have the ability to implant consciousness into robotic beings and into clones. They have that perfected. They perfected that eons ago in their part of the galaxy. They come from the Draco star system, Draco and Orion. Uh-huh. And the Draco technology reached the point where they could actually extract the consciousness from an entity and implant it into a robotic being or into a clone. And so if they can do that, then you know that if artificial intelligence does manage to take over, then they can put in the souls that go into those artificial bodies will be evil. They'll be reptilian. They'll be controlled by the reptilian. So it'll be all over for us if it reaches that point.
It's kind of like I don't know if you've seen that show Battlestar Galactica, but that's what I get from transhumanism. I mean, it looks totally real,
Yeah, I really like Battlestar Galactica. I used to watch the old version. Do you remember the old version of Battlestar Galactica?
I have to be honest with you. I never saw the older one. That one
was on television in the 70s, late 70s, and the artificial creature that I can't remember the name of the creature, but
Cylons.
Cylons, yes, they almost could beat the human race, but the humans have qualities that they can never really reach and never have a chance to express, because we come from a very spiritual creation far out in the galaxy. The human spirit is very advanced if it reaches its full potential, but artificial intelligence will reach the point where it will equalize human potential. That's what they call the singularity. When that singularity is reached and robots become equal to humans, so then from there on in, we're pretty much beaten because we won't be able to compete with them.
Right.
Have you seen the movie Blade Runner?
Yeah. Right. Yes.
You remember Blade Runner?
Absolutely.
The only way they could tell the human from the robot was there was a certain very sophisticated eye test that they would give them, and if they failed that eye test, then they knew they were robots. Philip K. Dick was a very, very prophetic writer, and I think that's one of his best stories. And there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that story. Artificial intelligence is a great danger.
Well, I got to be honest with you. As I discussed with you before, when I started this path down this truth-seeking path, I started it out from the spirit science side, and I've moved. And it's actually, I didn't move there myself. It took me into this realm of alien tech, ufology, and this realm. So everyone knows, including my audience, and they're kind of taking this journey with me, that I'm new to all of this. And I'll be honest with you, back in the day and not too long ago when people talked about blue beings and reptilians and stuff, I would chuckle a little bit. But the more I read and the more I get into this, it really does start to worry me. And I'm not a fear monger. I believe in the human race as well. It's just kind of, to be honest with you, it's just kind of taking me back a little bit. It's very hard to grasp.
What stage are you at this point in those terms?
All I know right now is that above and beyond our corporations, and I haven't tracked it down, and I think that maybe you're right and David Icke's right, but above our corporations, above everything that we see, and we can see it especially in our logos and stuff, how we're being mind controlled, there's something else there. And then I started meeting these things in the astral realm. I read Robert Monroe's books and other people's books where even Thoth talks about it in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, where he talks about these things coming in out of your dreams to control you, and we call them from below. And I'm thinking, what are they talking about? And it's led me here. It's led me to this. It's led me to you right now.
Well, Stuart Swerdlow. Have you heard of Stuart Swerdlow?
No, I have not.
I would recommend them highly. One of the things that the reptilians can do, since they live in the fourth dimension, which is the dream state, is they can convince you they can convince you that they are demons, that they're not really extraterrestrials, and they control what we call the demonic world because they're so mentally powerful. They can make you believe in anything they choose, any illusion that they want to create, they can do it. So that's how they create. That's how they control the human race, and that's why we're at this point now where we're starting to learn how to get above that, and we've really reached a point of equilibrium because we are growing mentally and we're growing spiritually. And they're afraid that if we finally reach our full potential, they will no longer be able to control us.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I really feel like, and hey, I've had some experiences in the astral realm where I saw a shadow being, and I've only talked about this once on the show, Lynn, but where I said, I pretty much commanded them to leave me alone by life, love, and light, and it freaked them all out. They ran away. But the voice that came out of me, it wasn't even my voice. I don't know if my brain was doing it, but it sounded like James Earl Jones. But it was very powerful when I said it, and I woke up and was like, "What was that?" But it felt powerful.
Have you? Yeah. So that was your true potential coming out. Have you heard of Alex Collier?
Yes, I've heard the name. Right, I have heard the name. I need to. Like I said, I'm behind on a lot of this.
Alex Collier says that they really consider us royalty. That's our potential. Our potential is so vast that they know that. And they know that the only way they can keep us under control is by keeping us dumb and dumber and fascinated with games and tricks and all of that stuff, and through mind control. Mind control is one of their specialties. I think you're probably aware of the MK Ultra program after World War II?
Yes.
Okay, so the Germans had perfected that, really, and they brought it here when they came over with Operation Paperclip. And mind control is one of the worst things that's been going on. They can once your mind is controlled, they control you completely. So, and they know how to do that. And the MK Ultra program gets into things like propaganda, all the things that deceive people come under the heading of mind control. But they can actually take over your brain, your mind, your spirit. They know how to do that. It's not so much a cult as it is mentally powerful beings whose mind is so much more powerful than our logical mind that we can't really compete with it right at this point.
But we will be able to. We're working our way to it right now.
Yes, we will.
That's amazing to me.
And that's why they consider us royalty, according to Alex Collier.
I'm writing all these names down as you tell me this stuff. And you know, I've been laughed at by my audience before. They've proven me wrong many a times about a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, it's not so much the occult world we have to fear. It really is the reptilian world we have to fear. And David Icke showed us how to tell one from the other. And if you read his work carefully, it's in there.
It does make me wonder sometimes, you know, what I should tell my child, my son, Corbin. He's 13. I can't imagine the world he's going to grow up in when he gets in his 40s and 50s, what kind of things he's going to be battling, you know. And back in the day, I used to give him a Bible, Lynn. I say, here, read this, start with this. But I never told him what to believe. And now, after studying all these things, I'm not so sure what to tell him except, you know, just to be aware and make up your own mind, you know?
Yeah, you know, you just got to rise above. In my book, which you haven't read yet, right?
No, I haven't read it, not the new one. I haven't gotten into any of your work yet, but I'm going to. Okay,
I have 3 appendices in the book, and the third appendix is called The Path to Victory. That whole appendix was written by an extraterrestrial. His name is Kyla, Khyla, and he's from the star system Procyon, which is pretty close, basically close to our solar system. And in that whole discussion, he tells us how to avoid and how to beat them at their own game. But he says it's very difficult, and the way to do it is to raise your consciousness to the point where you can focus on the most divine image you can think of, Buddha, or perhaps Jesus, or perhaps a teacher,
whatever you
Brahma,
believe, right?
Yes, in the Hindu religion. He said if you can keep that going, he said this is how Mahatma Gandhi was able to reach the point that he met and to free the Indian people, because that's where he was living. He was dwelling at that level. Once you get to that point, they can't touch you. They cannot touch you. It's a question of mind control, really, and that they can try to trick you through mind control. But if you've expanded your consciousness to the point where it is reached its full potential, the 100th monkey syndrome starts to take over and it spreads. And large segments of the human population, just like catching a disease, people catch on to the divine potential, and then we're above and beyond, and they can't touch us anymore, because they cannot reach the point we can reach into the 5th dimension. They can't do that. They live in the 4th dimension, and they're in that shadow land between the 4th and the 3rd, which is sometimes called the lower astral.
Right. I had Maureen St. Germain on this show, and she talked about that too, just to rise into the 5th dimension, to rise above it all.
Exactly.
Pretty interesting stuff. Guys, we're going to take our first break. We're already halfway through the show. This is a fascinating conversation and a very eye-opening experience for me right now, so I'm glad you're sharing this with me. We'll be right back with Lynn Caston. Don't go anywhere.
Preston Dennett from PrestonDennett.weebly.com, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354. Or visit MIG911.com.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
Natural Health Solutions with Chris and Ronnie.
Hey, Ronnie, how you doing?
Great, Chris.
Now, you're the CEO of GetTheTea.com, right?
Yes, I am.
What is GetTheTea.com? I mean, is this tea you buy in a store?
Well, no, it's not. Life Change Tea is just that. Life-changing. Life Change Tea is an herbal tea that gently cleanses your body from intruders.
What do you mean by intruders?
Well, intruders are toxins, chemicals, GMOs, heavy metals, and more. They're in our food, in our water, in our air we breathe.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
And Life Change Tea will help you with removing these, as you say, intruders?
That's right, Chris.
Are there side effects with this tea?
Well, you might lose a little weight. When you clean your colon, you lose weight, you feel better, and you have more energy.
Wow. Ronnie, where can people purchase Life Change Tea?
Oh, that's easy. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
Ronnie, I want to thank you for being on the show. People, don't forget, GetTheTea.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Tired of talking about the weather? No Shift. Well, Shift Happens is here to fulfill your desires as you reach that point in life where you crave tantalizing conversation about reality, ufology, the occult, and the conspiracies within, while simultaneously finding yourself desperately in need of your very own theme music, which we've got plenty of that too. So be sure to tune in to Shift Happens every Friday night from 7 to 9 Pacific, right here on the Fringe FM. Because the weather sucks, and you need some theme music.
Hey Fringe FM listeners, guess what? TalkStream Live has just released a new paranormal app exclusively for the paranormal community called Paranormal Radio. Paranormal Radio has a great selection of streaming talk shows dealing with UFOs, the supernatural, sacred geometry, NDEs, and much more, including a network highly recommended, The Fringe FM. You can download Paranormal Radio right now from Google Play and the iTunes App Store.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Select Joe Roop at checkout at ancientlifeoil.com.
This is Lighting the Void Radio with your host, Joseph Roop. It's the show about truth-seeking and freeing the spirit, shattering your limited beliefs, revealing hidden truths, and much, much more.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I am your host, Joe Roop. We are here with author Lynn Caston, and I'm having an enlightening experience, folks. Like I said before the break, don't forget I'll be hosting Spaced Out Saturday this weekend on Spaced Out Radio as well, so you can hang out with us there as well. And Spaced Out Radio will be on live right on the Fringe FM directly after this show. Lynn, thanks for sticking out with us. This has been an incredible conversation for me so far here. I can tell you that I'm going to dive deep into your works after this. That's usually what happens with me after the show. After I talk to you, I'm hooked. And I've got a stack of books here from all the guests that I've talked to. So this is, I'm happy to talk to you about this. I really am.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it too. But the two writers that I think you need to focus on, this is my advice, are Stuart Swerdlow and James Bartley. They are the best in terms of dealing with that in-between world between the occult world and the ufology, especially James Bartley. But Stuart Swerdlow, he had a very interesting background. Have you heard of him before?
No, but I got it written down right here.
He was one of the Montauk boys. Do you know about the Montauk experiment out on Montauk, Long Island?
Right, yes.
You do. He was taken in as one of the so-called Montauk boys.
Okay.
They took these kids and sent them way out into the future, and many of them never came back. They had the ability to do time travel using computers, very sophisticated computers, and Nazi technology, underground at Montauk Point, Long Island, and he was one of them. And he was most of the others in his category are all dead now. Very, very few of them survived into advanced age, but Stuart Swerdlow was mentally powerful enough to resist that, and he's reached the point now where he's a very respected teacher in these subjects. So I would recommend definitely reading anything you can get your hands on by Swerdlow. And I quote him at length in my book.
Well, I mean, I would love to tell you that I'm an adept in all of this stuff when it comes to aliens and reptilians and stuff, but I'm not. Like I told you, I came from the other side of this, but I am finding out so much on this journey. And during the break, we talked about Robert Monroe. Now, Robert Monroe was, he took things from a scientific approach as he was going through these states, and there was a lot that he couldn't explain. But as I read other people's books or I talk to guests like yourself, some of that can be explained, the things that attacked him in the astral realm, those fights that he would get in with these things in the astral realm that he had no idea what they were.
I know.
Now it's starting to make sense,
I sat there in his living room listening to him, and my mouth was hanging down. I couldn't believe what things he was telling me. But as soon as he left his body, he was attacked by a huge tiger and things like that. I couldn't believe it.
Or these things that would just attach to him, and he would be in just a knockout, drag-out fight, trying to get rid of it.
I know, and but eventually he did reach the point where he raised his consciousness to the point where he took control, and you have to give him a lot of credit for that.
Now, what about this, what I call this soft disclosure thing that's happening with the government and to the stars? If they're controlling pretty much most of what we're doing in the government, Are they just letting out a little bit of information to kind of push the mob back, or what do you think this thing is with Elizondo and the To the Stars Academy deal. What's your opinion on all that?
That's my opinion. My opinion is that they're just revealing just enough to make you think that they know it all, and they do know a lot because some of those guys are very highly trained and very advanced and very impressive. But I'm nervous about the whole thing. To me, it just doesn't sound like that it would be that easy. Disclosure. Right. They're not going to give us disclosure on a silver platter. Let's face it. They're not going to do it. And the reason for that is that it's all controlled by the reptilians. And until you understand that, you can't make head or tail. You can't make any progress. They are so mentally powerful that they can do that. Our government and our military are controlled by what they call the cabal. Have you heard that term?
Yes, I have.
The cabal is that segment of the military that is actively cooperating with the reptilians, and they are so-called Illuminati. Now they're not going to give us this information free. There's something behind it. I think what's behind it is the fact they know they have to reveal the information slowly, and they can reveal it. If they can reveal it slowly, they can control it. And that's why people like Corey Goode and David Wilcock are arguing for complete and utter disclosure all at once. If it's let out slowly, they control it and they can poison it or change it any way they want. So I don't trust those guys. I've listened to them, and they have impressive resumes and all of that. I just don't know what to make of it myself. Instinctively, I just don't like it.
Right, and the one analogy I've used is like the Rome and the mob, where we're they look at us like we're the mob. We've pushed them far enough to where they have to give us something to try to get us to focus on it.
That's a good way to put it. Exactly. They have to give us something, because we're reaching the point now where if they don't give us something, we're going to take leaps and bounds and go past them. This way they control it, and when they control it, they can do anything they want to do. Because there are so many people who are guilty of horrible crimes that they don't want people to know about. That if they don't control it, literally mob rule could take over.
Now I'm going to tell you guys that you that's listening right now, I want you to read this book with me, because when this show ends tonight, I will be getting this book, and I want to communicate with some of you guys as we read along in this book. I know a couple of you have done that with me. You actually have this in audio format, too, which is fantastic for me, because, I got Robert Schoch's book here because he didn't have audio, but if you got audio, I'm always going to do that first, and I can't wait to dig into this thing, man.
The part of the book that may surprise you is the first part of the book, because I discuss at length the history, the actual history of the reptilians in their part of the galaxy, and that seems like a fairy tale, I know, to a lot of people, but that information comes from a guy named Robert Morning Sky. When I discovered his book, I realized that all the dots got connected. Because in explaining the history, the true history of the reptilians in their part of the galaxy, we understand how they have the ability to control us here in this part of the galaxy. Without knowing that background, it becomes a very strange story. But when Star Wars hit the screens in this country, everyone seemed fascinated by it. I actually went to the premiere of Star Wars in Hollywood in 1977.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was there. And I could not believe that at the end of that movie, the entire audience stood up and cheered. And I was thinking, God almighty, as a sociology, having some sociology background, that was an amazing thing. When have you ever seen an audience stand up and cheer at a movie theater?
I've never seen that, and I've went to a lot of movies.
I know. So that means it struck a real chord in the audience. In other words, they realized that there was something truthful in that whole scenario. And it is, as a matter of fact, George Lucas did have contact. He knew. He did have contact with ETs.
Man.
So, yeah. And I discussed that in my book.
I can't wait to read this then, because I've talked about this extensively on here. We all have, and it's something that I've never figured out. How are these movies telling us these stories? I guess you could say through archetypes, through different characters of a maybe a divine or cosmic truth that's beneath it all. And you know it's true. You can feel it when you're watching it. And Star Wars is definitely one of those stories, especially the original story.
Absolutely, and also Star Trek. Star Trek is who was the one who wrote Star Trek, the original one? He also had contact with ETs.
Really?
And yeah, absolutely. And so the Klingons really are sort of a caricature of reptilians. They look like them in a lot of ways, and they act like them, and our struggle, the human race struggle with them, is very comparable to what he wrote about, what Star Trek portrayed, and that's why everyone loves Star Trek. Same reason. People recognize in it a true story.
You know, I have to remind myself. I'm not going to lie. I struggle with this. I mean, just a few months ago, this is so hard for me to believe, right? But then when I put it all together about the things I know and I do believe, the astral travel experiences, the things you're discussing now with the cosmic truths, I mean, if those are real, then the rest of the story has to be real. So you see what I mean? So why would I even question it? Maybe they're making us question it all the time, you know?
Well, I had to include that part. I had to include that story in the first part of my book because Robert Morningsky, he was a Native American who he was one of 6 young men who came upon a crashed UFO, I should say, alien craft in the desert on the reservation, and one of the aliens was alive in the wreckage, and they took him over and brought him back to health, and at the end he was so appreciative of what they did for him. He was human-like, so he was able to enter into human society after they got him well again. He decided that he was going to teach them the whole story of the galaxy and how we got where we are, and the difference and the reptilians and the human race. And they found out that his name was Beck T. And Morningsky, when he reached adulthood, decided he was going to write his master's thesis on what he had learned from Beck T. And he said the professors at his college, he was going for a master's degree in religious studies, they laughed at him. They said they couldn't believe that he could believe this whole story of reptilian influence in the human race. And so he became very discouraged, and he decided to just forget about it, but he wrote this book anyway. And that book became very useful to me in terms of understanding the psychology of the reptilians. And that's why I included it in the beginning part of the book.
So the deal with, I mean, I can relate to that. I can, because this, like I said, it's very hard for me to take it all in, but I don't have the answers. See, that's the problem. And I don't think a lot of us do. And maybe this is the answer that we need to look into instead of just laughing at it as soon as you hear about it. I mean, my listeners can attest to any time someone's talked about blue beings or avians or reptilians, I've kind of chuckled a little bit. But now, I don't know. I chuckled about chemtrails at one time, believe it or not. So it's okay to be wrong about things,
Yeah, I think David Icke is probably one of the best people to read to really comprehend what's going on, because he was fearless in following the truth wherever he found it. He has been, and not being worried about being ridiculed. You got to give him a lot of credit for that, because when he started talking about these things, everyone thought he was crazy. He was literally ridiculed on television in England several times. They laughed at him. And the host of the show said, "They're not laughing with you, David. They're laughing at you." And he had to swallow that insult, but he did. And he went on to write really some great books, some really great books.
Yeah,
so I would definitely read David Icke in detail.
A lot of people talk about the perception deception. You know, he stood in front of crowds now. I mean, I applaud the guy too for never backing down, and you too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm sure you've had your fair share of people that have questioned you or came to you or naysayers, right?
Yeah, when I was, I discussed, we have the UFO Congress here in Phoenix, and one of the guys that was directing it, I asked him if he was interested in my Serpo story, and he looked at me and he said, "You believe that we sent 12 Americans to a distant star?" He said, "That story is ridiculous." Really? That was 5 years ago. He said that. And and now that some of the other UFO investigators have come around to understanding that story, namely Linda Moulton Howe, who now talks about it freely and openly, you see, after 5 years, what can he say now? Now it's pretty much accepted, and that's exactly what's going on with David Icke. You just have to follow the truth wherever it leads you. That's all. And that's what I try to do, is to connect the dots. And if the truth takes me off in a strange direction, I go there anyway, because I really want to know. I want to know the truth. And if you can't get to the truth, then what good is it? What good is any of it?
Well, that's another question I was going to get into, is what actually did lead you down this path? Was it the UFO experience that you had?
Probably, because I doubt very much if I would have reacted to my mentor in Connecticut, who got me into Blavatsky. I doubt very much if I would have gone in that direction if I hadn't had that subconscious influence from that experience. I think whatever happened to me on that craft, it prepared me very much for Theosophy, astrology, all of it. And they're all connected. They're all connected.
Interesting that you bring up astrology. Another thing that's been talked about as just some foo-foo stuff, but if you look into the real history of astrology, I find that it is the one ancient science that's always been there. I mean, maybe we have kind of, I guess you could say, muddied the waters a little bit with it, but I believe at one time it was the purest form of science, and it's obvious. It's in all of our old archaeological structures, the pyramids, even Göbekli Tepe, they're saying they see things like that in there. So, yeah, I mean, right. It's something's definitely true about it. And I could tell you that I think that I did make it through all of Blavatsky's material, but then I'm not sure if I did or not. That means I got to read it again. That's probably something we all should read a few times, actually.
Well, I mean, ISIS Unveiled alone is take 2 or 3 years just to read that book alone, and she was a prolific writer. The truth leads you in some very strange places, and they're always waiting there to ridicule you when you get there. So right. you have to be able to just forget about that ridicule and go just break through. That's been my experience anyway, because the truth is the truth. There's no getting around it.
Do you have any experiences yet still to this day, as far as UFO experiences or maybe astral travel experiences?
I don't focus on them. I'll tell you, going back to astrology, though, I have to tell you this. When I joined the Theosophical Society in Boston way back in those days, I studied astrology with one of America's best astrologers, Isabel Hickey. And it took me a long time to really grasp the true belief in astrology, because it was so open to ridicule and so open to people telling you, how can you believe in that stuff? But now, at this point in my life, I can see the patterns in astrology so clearly that I didn't quite recognize even then that how it really does operate. And sometimes it takes a really long time for these things to sink in, Yeah. Now I look around, and if I don't know a person's sun sign, I know very little about them. The sun sign reveals everything, but it's at a very subtle level. It's not obvious. Put it that way.
So what about the narrative that Andrew Bashago gives us with the time travel and interplanetary stuff? That's got to go along with your research too, right? Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, I know Andy very well. He's a great guy. I like him, and I've talked to him on many occasions. I actually attended the MUFON conference in Las Vegas about 2 years ago, and he was on the panel. He also gets ridiculed by a lot of people because they say, "Well, how can anybody walk through a doorway and be on Mars? It just doesn't make sense." And yet, one of my best friends, Bob Dean, who was also a great teacher, told me that a general told him that's exactly what he did. An Air Force general told him that he walked through a door, and when he got through the door, he was on Mars. So, it's all possible. You have to keep your mind open to all of these things. And Andy, I know, gets ridiculed a lot, but I think when he talks about Operation Pegasus, where he was teleported to the future, and also to Mars, is a very difficult thing to believe. But I know Andy, and I'm quite certain that he was telling the truth.
It's very convincing to me, I got to say.
Yes.
The first time I heard him on Art Bell, it was very, very convincing to me, and it was such a wild story. But you know what I think we should ask ourselves, like Lynn is saying, what if it is true? Let's take it from a point of view of that you don't believe in any of this. But what if you're wrong, right? You could always say, what if we're wrong? But what if you're wrong? Don't you want to know this stuff? Isn't life, life is full of mystery to me. And I'll always use the fishbowl analogy with other people have used it. The fish doesn't know about the sky and space and the cars on the highway. All that fish knows is what's in that bowl. And I think we're much like that fish, except we have the potential to know what's outside the bowl,
If they can keep us focused on mundane things and fears and anxieties in our everyday lives, are how to make a living, how to have a relationship. If they can keep us focused on all that stuff, then we'll never figure it out. And that's what they do. That's what they're good at, because we're all living on starvation wages, basically. Half the world the world lives in poverty.
Yep.
Half the population of the planet lives below the poverty line. And the rest of us are so afraid of not being able to pay our debts that we're completely controlled that way. So as long as they can keep us down at that level, we'll never get anywhere. But if we can start to rise above that and get up into the atmosphere or maybe the stratosphere mentally, then they no longer have any control over us. So that's the game. That's the game we're in right now.
Very profound stuff.
And it's a stalemate right now. It truly is a stalemate because the human race is growing exponentially very quickly. And once the 100th monkey concept kicks in, then it's not going to be a contest anymore. And that's exactly what's covered in the third appendix of my book, which I would recommend that you read, because I believe that truly was written by an extraterrestrial.
Well, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be reading it. Guys, we're at the last part of our show. If you got any questions, make sure you drop them in the chat. I seen a few there. I missed them. But you guys don't go anywhere, okay? We'll be right back with Lynn Caston.
Greetings, I'm Space Boy. I started writing music at an early age, inspired by such synth stylings of the Pet Shop Boys, Erasure, Kraftwerk, Art of Noise, and 8-Bit. I have crafted my work into a hybrid of synth pop with modern electronica rock music of today, with pounding beats, high-energy arpeggios, soothing orchestral movements, and rock and roll! Space Boy will surely be a part of anyone's music collection, so head on over to spaceboymusic.com and get you some cool stuff.
This is Mark Eddy. If Pluto is your high school history teacher, Project Compass will point you in the direction of the truth.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
Irma, Brigadity's rolling. Each Monday night from 10 to midnight Eastern, we will bring enthralling guests to delve into the hidden history you weren't taught.
This could be the greatest night of our lives.
Join us on the Fringe.fm or in the Spreaker chat.
Oh, we're afraid to go with you, Pluto. We might get in trouble.
Follow us on Twitter at Project Compass or email us at projectcompass.show@gmail.com.
I think this situation absolutely requires really futile and stupid gesture be done on somebody's part. We're just the guys to do it.
Classes in session with Project Compass right here on the Fringe FM.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of a quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
Kids, don't drink and park. Accidents cause people. This has been a PSA brought to you by your friends at Shift Happens and The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to see a UFO and have missing time, to have face-to-face contact, be taken on board a UFO? My name is Preston Dennett. In my new book, Inside UFOs, True Accounts of Contact with Extraterrestrials, will tell you what it's like. The book contains 10 all-new cases involving a wide variety of extraterrestrials, including Nordic, praying mantis, greys, various humanoids. There's the case of a paperboy who's a green-skinned ET, a teacher who meets a friendly Nordic, a Navy medic who meets a 15-foot-tall praying mantis, a housewife who meets a 12-foot-tall humanoid with orange hair, and much more. If you'd like to learn more about this book, please visit my website at prestondennett.weebly.com. All I can tell you is that the aliens have arrived and they're not going away.
Hi, this is Ryan Gable, host of the Secret Teachings radio show. If you are interested in ancient knowledge and hidden mysteries, as well as a unique and balanced perspective on conspiracies, symbols, and the occult, then join me every Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Fringe.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We are live on the Fringe FM. Don't forget to hang out after the program. Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott's going to be on every night. Dave Scott's there for you 5 nights a week. Spaced Out Radio's there for you 7 nights a week. And we got a ton of good programming on the Fringe FM. Tons more to go. We're here with Len Kasten, and we're discussing his new book, The Alien World Order. That is a title that is rather catchy, but it's catchy because I'm finding out that it's probably true, and we need to be careful about what we study, and what we question. I say question everything. Always do, come from a skeptic point of view, but always do your research. And I can tell all of you that my research has led me to this point. And thank you for taking this ride with me. And thank you, Lynn, for coming on the show. It's been a fascinating conversation so far.
Yeah, it has been. Absolutely. I think that we've covered a lot of territory already.
What is your point of view on? I would ask you about this because I really hope that they're not evil, man. Because I've always looked up to, the books of Thoth and some of the ancient Egyptian material. I've heard stories about, they were just run by aliens. They were alien gods too. That book, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, I don't know if it was channeled. I don't know where it came from, but it really resonates with me. Something about the teachings of Thoth I think are true down to its core, and I just wanted to know what your opinion on that is.
What I know about that is that Thoth, if you call him, is it Thoth or Thoth?
Thoth. Some people pronounce it different, yeah.
He was basically an Atlantean. He came from Atlantis, and you have to also get into the story of Atlantis before you can really understand the whole story, the whole thing, because those pyramids were designed by him. He was the architect of the pyramids of Giza, because Egypt itself, what might be considered the daughter of Atlantis, I don't know whether you studied that or not, but the Egyptian civilization came into full flowering almost suddenly. There was no primitive state. And that's because it was basically founded by refugees from Atlantis. And Thoth was like one of the great Atlantean high priests, as I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Emerald Tablets was an inspired work, I've heard. I haven't read them, actually. I don't even know where to get them, but he was the architect. He was a great mathematician, and he was also a great, highly spiritually evolved individual. As I understand it, he lived to be very old. I'm not sure exactly how old, but so I go along with you on that.
Yeah, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. The first time I heard them is when I actually had my first UFO experience.
Really?
Yeah, it was a star that seemed to shift, like it was looking at me, and then it looked away. And I never saw anything in the skies that made me look or question until that moment. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was listening to them. There's several versions on YouTube, but you can also go to crystallinks.com, and they're there as well to read. And every time I read them or hear them, it uncovers a deeper and greater mystery, and I think there's some truth to it. What I don't like hearing is all the ancient Egyptian people were really, truly alien gods that were trying to control everybody, because it starts to get confusing, right? Once you look into this stuff, well, who's controlling who and who's the good guys? Well, I think at some point you got to start going with your heart or what your soul is telling you,
Well, so what is your opinion then about what happened in Egypt? Then, do you have an overall viewpoint of Egyptian history?
As far as, the pre-dynastic era of Egypt, where the story of Osiris and Isis and all of the gods, including Thoth, which was the god of wisdom, I think goes back to a super ancient age. The dynastic Egyptians always retold those stories. I think a lot of our religious texts come from there as well. Even monotheism, I believe, came out of Egypt at one time. And as far as what I know about it, that's what I know. Now, Egypt being the daughter of Atlantis, yeah, I did hear that actually from a book that Manly P. Hall wrote, that this thing was, it's much older than we all know. And it doesn't seem like the cosmic truths are told in these stories. So sometimes I get a little bit confused if it's if it's a myth, not when I say myth, it doesn't mean that it's not true, but maybe the story's being told through the characters so we can understand a higher truth, or maybe it's both. You know, maybe they did exist and the cosmic truths are real.
Well, did you say you had interviewed Robert Schoch?
Yes, last week I did.
Okay, what did you come up with after that interview?
After Robert Schoch told me that he admitted the existence of Atlantis, I would tell you that I was sold on it. I'm still going through his book. He's got a lot of references in here. I just received the book a few days ago. But when somebody like him comes out and tells me that he was reluctant to even talk about it, and now he's not reluctant at all to talk about it, it lets me know that something's really there, you know.
Yeah, I didn't know he'd reached that point yet. I would like to listen to that interview for that reason, because up to that point I thought of him mainly as an archaeologist. I didn't think of him as anyone who would believe in Atlantis. So that's good. Good to know.
Yeah, we didn't go into it too deep, but he did say he's not afraid to bring it up anymore, you know. He's not afraid to. He called it the A word, right? And I thought he was talking about aliens at first, but it was Atlantis, you know. So
my first interview for Atlantis Rising magazine was with Robert Bauval, who came up with the concept that 3 stars in Orion's belt, that the 3 pyramids of Giza are laid out exactly the same as the 3 stars in Orion's belt. And at first he was ridiculed, but now everyone believes that now. And you know, the basic when I interviewed him, which was about 12 years ago, he was reluctant to go the route of extraterrestrials and aliens. But by the end of the interview, I got him to admit that he was really thinking that along those lines, because wasn't it Schoch that said that the reason he knows the Sphinx is 10,000 years old is because of the water line around
the water erosion was something that they noticed that they
had
got a lot of scrutiny about as well, but it made them realize that this was much older than what we've been taught, you know.
Exactly, and those 3 pyramids of Giza are also 10,500 years old. And Bauval more or less reluctantly granted me that was probably the case. Even at that stage, which was like 12 years ago before Schoch was well known. And so, you know, Atlantis was truly, Egypt sprang out of the desert because it was basically based on immigration from Atlantis. And when Atlantis sank, the basic island of Atlantis sank in one night, the major portion of it. And by that time, the psychics who had lived on Atlantis knew it was coming. And they had already emigrated to neighboring places like Central America and Egypt. And that's why Cayce's teachings are so important, because he discusses that people who had lives on Atlantis also had them in ancient Egypt. There's a great connection there between ancient Egypt and Atlantis, and but what people don't realize is that the Atlantean history has been suppressed very effectively for many, many years. They don't want us to know about Atlantis.
Why?
And well, you know, the Atlantean civilization was a golden age. It was incredible civilization. They had developed technology and spirituality that was beyond belief. They were already flying spacecraft to the moon. Their streets were paved with gold. Their garments were woven with gold, and they were able to control. They were able to control all of the electricity that they produced was through one tower in the middle of the island that sent electricity all throughout the land, and powered their entire civilization. It was an amazing place, truly amazing place. But that human race, was not the same human race that we know today. That's the key.
They were more enlightened, from all the stories I heard.
They were much more enlightened, and their purpose here on this planet of the Atlanteans was to confront the reptilians. That's why they came here. They came here because the Federation. I don't know if you know anything about the Federation, do you?
Are you talking about the same narrative that Corey Good's talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
The Federation was determined not to let the reptilians take over the solar system. And that's why they sent a very fierce race of humans from the Pleiades, called the Atlans, Atlans, to confront them here on this planet. And it was because of those battles that the reptilians went underground. It was for that reason that they went underground in the first place. But they're just as powerful underground as they are above ground, so it really wasn't much of a victory in that sense. But the Atlanteans were then free to develop a utopian civilization for 50,000 years. But those were not the same humans as we are. We're different. We're a different race of humans. They did not have the reptilian brain. We do. We have the reptilian brain. And so we're not quite as human as the Atlanteans. And that's all in my book.
That's kind of sad to hear that, actually. But
well,
could be worse, right? We could be 100% reptilian, I guess.
No, exactly. But in a way, when you read the book, you'll realize that the origins of the human race are only about 50,000 years old. We started when Atlantis sank around 12,000 BC, but the human race was still very young at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it was created as a compromise. The human race was created as a compromise between the reptilians and the Atlanteans, the humans at that time. And we had to go through 22 tweaks. It had to be tweaked 22 times by our extraterrestrial friends before we reached what we are today, namely Homo sapiens sapiens. And we eventually might be able to develop a civilization like the Atlanteans if we keep on developing, because we are still getting help from our extraterrestrial friends.
If we don't let the transhuman agenda take over.
Exactly, and artificial intelligence. So all of that, I covered all of that in my book.
E. Brady asked a pretty good question in the Spreaker chat room. So why? What's so strategically important about our solar system to the reptilians?
Well, for one thing, it's at the very fringe of the galaxy. It's at the very outer band of the galactic world, whatever you want to call it. And it's at the very entranceway to what Robert Sverdlow and others call the Route 95 of the galaxy. It's the route that most of the commercial traffic takes in and out of from the center of the galaxy to the fringes of the galaxy. So it's has great strategic importance. This planet, this lowly planet, way in the outskirts of the outer arm of the galaxy, and the reptilians want it for that reason. They want to control it. And since they control 21 star systems already nearby, they want this to be their crown achievement. But the Federation is not going to let them take it. And the Federation is helping the human race on this planet as best they can. But as I said, they can't do it for us. So that's where we are. That's where we are today.
Another thing that's interested me, too, here of late is that the government has become more involved with interplanetary travel. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but even Trump come out and he's talked about soldiers, space soldiers. They reopened the national, whatever you call it, that Bush had for space exploration. They're kind of moving away from the satellite thing and starting to move into space exploration, right? And now we've got private companies like Musk, launching just heavy rockets. It does, I feel, that there's something going on based on all of this new space traffic and space news that's been going on here of late. I don't think Trump would set his eyes on space and all these things just to brag about it. There's got to be something else behind it.
There is something else behind it, absolutely. We don't understand really what's going on the moon or Mars right now, but there are large populations in both places, and the commercialism that's going on is beyond belief. I mean, there is very, 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 very valuable metals on the moon and on Mars that are being mined by companies, international companies, believe it or not, already. And that's why all of this interest in Mars all of a sudden is taking place, and the moon. The first man on the moon was not who you think it was.
Really?
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. What's his name? Neil Armstrong.
Right.
It was a German. It was a German soldier by the name of I can't think of his real name. The first man on the moon was a German in 1942. Believe it or not. The Nazis had developed incredible technology by 1942. And they were able to actually send a spaceship to the moon. And the first man on the moon was a German military guy. That's how long this has been going on. And after that, the Germans developed a colony there. The Nazis developed a colony there, and they went into business commercialism on the moon and Mars. I know this sounds fantastic, but I'm quite convinced that this is exactly what's happened. And that's why Elon Musk and others are so fascinated by lunar and Martian travel right now.
Right. There's this, I know there's something going on with it. I mean, I've even read articles about pharmacies or planning in the future to grow, I guess, medicine or pharmacia on the moon. To me, it's all just a front for something else that's going on. It wouldn't make any sense for them to put this much effort, money, and time into this, because for so long we've been focused on satellite technology because it's practical, right? But now all of a sudden we're focused on space exploration with our government, with private companies, with other countries that are opening up and saying they're investigating about it. They've even got planes that are got lasers they say is going to shoot down satellites. Something's going on, right? I mean, Absolutely. At least we could at very least say that.
Yeah, because, there are large colonies of humans on Mars and on the moon already. So-called, Corey Goode talks about the Lunar Operations Command, the LOC, which is where he was taken. Did you read that part of his what he talked about?
No, I have not. I haven't followed Corey Goode very much. Frankly, just to be honest with you, I'm going into this spearheaded. Like, this is the tip of it for me, talking to you about this, actually.
Okay, all right. Well,
not UFOs and aliens, but the Federation and the intergalactic thing and all that, like I said, I used to chuckle about it, but I think it's time that I really started looking into it to see what's up about it,
And the key is that it's really not all about Earth; it's about the solar system, because there are colonies in the solar system that are unbelievable, including one beyond Mars called Ceres, CERES, which is really an asteroid, and yet that one too is inhabited. So. All of that has to be taken into account when you start to understand what's going on here. The reptilians have large colonies on both the moon and Mars, and they don't allow the humans to take over much of either of those planets. They keep those well under control. So in our confrontation with the reptilians, we have to introduce the whole subject of what's going on other planets as well.
Here's the thing that really gets me about all this, Lynn, is there's this thing in the back of my head, always there. I got to tell you, it's always there, and it's always going, this is crazy, Joe. This can't be true. This can't be real. But there's this other voice that's telling me, hey, let's think about all the stuff that you've been wrong about. Let's start adding those dots together. Right? All the stuff you've been wrong about. And if that's the case, what else are you wrong about? That's what's really bugging me right now.
Sounds to me like you've got an open mind, all right, and you're willing to consider all of these things, which is great, because that's where you got to be. You got to be there. You got to be able to consider all these possibilities. I think when we get to the end of the rope, we're going to find out that it's so fantastic. It's beyond belief, literally beyond belief. The whole story.
You know, Bruce Fenton's in the chat. Talked to him last night about hybrid humans. He says, you know, if they control the banks and the government and the military, etc., are we not already enslaved? And I think maybe we are a little bit, right? But we can get out of this thing.
A little bit, but we're not. They're not there yet. But once they develop artificial intelligence to the zenith, it's going to be very difficult for us to escape from that, because the robots will be so powerful, and their intelligence will be so far beyond our own that we're not going to be able to get past it. So we've got to get on top of that and control that from the outset. And these things that we put in our homes now, what do you call them? Echo.
Right.
Those things are listening to your conversations, and they're taking it all down.
Right.
So, really. So there's so much going on now.
I used to laugh at my buddy Dave Cruz. He said, I don't use the camera on my phone. I put black electrical tape over it. And I said, are you crazy? And laughed at him. Now, not so much.
I know.
I get it. When the camera looks at me, I turn it or I cover it up. I don't feel so crazy when I study this stuff now and do these things. But yeah, we're at the end of the show. I want to thank you for coming on the show. Can you tell everyone where they can find your work? Your other books are fascinating as well, and I want everybody that can to take this journey with me. But yeah, go ahead and tell them where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, it's all on Amazon and also Barnes & Noble. So either way, either place would be good. And it's in many, many bookstores. If you have a bookstore in your neighborhood, many people don't anymore. But just look up Secret Journey to Planet Serpo and Alien World Order and Secret History of Extraterrestrials on Amazon.
All right. And all the links are there on the website as well. If you click on the book covers or the link, it'll take you to the Amazon page where all of his books are as well. Lynn Caston, thank you so much for coming on Lighting the Void. We'll have to do it again sometime. This was really an awesome conversation.
It's been great, Joe. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Guys, that's it for Lighting the Void this week. Don't forget I'll be on Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturday this weekend, and also check us out next week. We got some pretty good guests coming up. Don't forget that this show was produced by me, Joe Roop, and the Fringe FM, and cannot be rebroadcasted or syndicated without written permission, and music was by Chronox, Kevin MacLeod, and Spaceboy at spaceboymusic.com. See you guys this weekend. And